Welcome, listeners, to this audiobook summary of When the Body Says No, The Cost of Hidden Stress by Dr. Gabor Maté. We're embarking on a profound journey through a book that bridges the gap between mind and body, revealing how the stress we hide, often from ourselves, shapes our health in ways we can't ignore. Maté, a Vancouver physician with decades of experience, blends patient stories, science, and his own life into 19 chapters that challenge how we think about illness. I'll take you through each one, diving deep into the narratives and insights, then wrap up with a conclusion that ties it all together. This is for anyone who's ever wondered why we get sick or how we might heal. Imagine a life where every yes you say comes at a hidden cost, a cost you don't even realize until your body begins to speak for you. What if the illnesses we suffer, from arthritis to cancer, aren't just random strikes of fate, but messages, urgent whispers or cries, from a body that's saying no when we can't? This is the provocative premise of When the Body Says No, The Cost of Hidden Stress by Dr. Gabor Maté, a Canadian physician whose work bridges the gap between science, emotion, and human experience. In this audiobook summary, we'll take a deep dive into Maté's groundbreaking exploration of the mind-body connection, how stress, buried emotions, and the stories of our lives shape our health in ways we rarely acknowledge. Over the next hour, we'll uncover the science, meet the people whose stories illuminate this truth, and explore Maté's vision for healing. So, settle in, and let's begin. Chapter 1. The Stress-Disease Connection. Dr. Gabor Maté opens When the Body Says No with a radical idea. The diseases that plague us, cancer, multiple sclerosis, heart disease, aren't just biological breakdowns. They're often the end result of a lifetime of stress we didn't even know we were carrying. Maté isn't talking about the occasional stressful day at work or a fleeting argument. He's talking about chronic stress, the kind that seeps into our bones, woven into our personalities, our childhoods, and the way we move through the world. Take Mary, for example, one of Maté's patients. Mary was a kind, gentle woman in her 50s, diagnosed with scleroderma, a brutal autoimmune disease that hardens the skin and organs. She was always the caregiver, never saying no to her demanding family, her needy friends, or her exhausting job. Maté noticed a pattern. Mary couldn't set boundaries. She repressed her anger, her needs, her very self. And her body, Maté argues, paid the price. This isn't just a hunch. Maté leans on psychoneuroimmunology, the science of how our mind, nervous system, immune system, and hormones talk to each other. When we're stressed, our bodies release cortisol, a hormone meant to help us fight or flee. But when that stress never shuts off, cortisol becomes a slow poison, weakening our immune defenses, inflaming our tissues, and setting the stage for disease. Maté cites studies, like one showing how women with repressed anger are more prone to breast cancer, or how chronic stress accelerates the progression of ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease. But here's the kicker. Modern medicine often ignores this connection. We treat the body like a machine, fix the parts, ignore the driver. Maté challenges this mind-body dualism, a legacy of Descartes that splits our emotional lives from our physical ones. He says we can't heal what we don't see, and what we don't see is the hidden stress shaping our health. Chapter 2. The Stories We Carry. Let's step into some of the lives Maté brings to light, stories that make this science feel achingly real. There's Lou Gehrig, the baseball legend whose name became synonymous with ALS. Gehrig was a stoic, a team player who never complained, even playing through broken bones. Maté wonders, did his inability to say no, to rest, to prioritize himself, contribute to his body breaking down? Contrast that with Stephen Hawking, another ALS patient, who lived decades longer than expected. Hawking was prickly, assertive, unafraid to demand what he needed. Maté suggests that saying no might have given Hawking's body a fighting chance. Then there's Gilda Radner, the comedic genius felled by ovarian cancer. Radner was a people-pleaser, a woman who hid her pain behind laughter. Maté points to studies linking emotional repression, especially of anger, with cancer risk. He doesn't say emotions cause cancer outright, but they create a fertile ground where stress can take root. And what about Ronald Reagan? Alzheimer's disease took the former president, a man known for his charm and optimism. Maté digs deeper, noting Reagan's childhood with an alcoholic father, a wound he never processed. Could that unacknowledged pain, that forced positivity, have played a role in his brain's decline? Mate thinks so, citing research tying emotional suppression to neurodegenerative diseases. These aren't just celebrity anecdotes. Mate shares quieter stories too, like Betty, a breast cancer patient who spent her life caring for others, or John, whose arthritis flared whenever he swallowed his rage. Over and over, Mate sees a pattern. People who can't say no to the world, whose bodies eventually say it for them. He calls this the disease-prone personality, not a rigid label, but a tendency shaped by how we handle stress. Repressed emotions don't vanish. They simmer, and the body bears the burden. Chapter 3. The Roots of Stress. So where does this hidden stress come from? Mate takes us back, way back, to our earliest days. He argues that chronic stress isn't just about today's pressures. It's about the blueprints laid in childhood. Picture a baby crying for comfort. If a parent responds with love and attunement, tuning into the child's needs, that baby learns the world is safe, that emotions can be expressed. But if that comfort is withheld, if the child's cries are ignored or punished, a seed is planted. My feelings don't matter. I must adapt. Mate introduces us to the science of attachment. When a child's emotional needs aren't met, their stress systems stay on high alert. Over time, this hypervigilance becomes a way of life. Take Susan, a patient with multiple sclerosis. As a child, she learned to be the good girl, suppressing her anger to keep peace in a chaotic home. Decades later, her immune system turned on itself. Mate connects the dots. Early stress rewires us, making us prone to disease. But it's not just about bad parenting. Mate is careful here. Nobody's to blame. Parents are shaped by their own stresses, their own upbringings, and a society that prizes productivity over presence. In our fast-paced world, attunement, truly seeing a child, gets lost. And the kids? They grow into adults who don't know how to say no, who bury their needs to survive. Mate calls this the biology of relationships. Our health isn't just ours. It's tied to the people who raised us, the culture we live in. He doesn't stop at childhood, though. Adult stressors, like toxic jobs or loveless marriages, pile on, amplifying the damage. The body keeps score, and eventually, it protests. Chapter 4. The 7 A's of Healing. Now, here's where hope enters the story. Mate doesn't just diagnose the problem. He offers a path forward. Near the end of When the Body Says No, he unveils the 7 A's of Healing, a framework to reclaim our health by listening to our bodies. Let's walk through them. First, acceptance. This isn't resignation. It's facing the truth of our past and present. Mate says we can't heal what we deny. Second, awareness. Tune into your emotions. What's your body saying? Are you angry? Exhausted? Name it. Third, anger. Don't fear it. Express it. Anger isn't the enemy. Repression is. Mate tells of patients whose health improved when they stopped swallowing their fury. Next, autonomy. Learn to say no. Set boundaries. Protect your energy. Fifth, attachment. We're not islands. We heal in connection. Seek relationships that see you, that nurture you. Sixth, assertion. Stand up for who you are, not who others want you to be. Finally, affirmation. Embrace your worth. You're not here to please everyone. You're here to live. These aren't quick fixes. Mate's no fan of New Age platitudes or forced positivity. He warns against the tyranny of positive thinking, that cultural obsession with staying upbeat, even when we're breaking inside. Real healing, he says, comes from authenticity, from facing the negative and claiming our full humanity. It's slow, messy work, but it's how we teach our bodies to stop saying no on our behalf. Chapter 5. Reflections and Closing Thoughts. As we near the end of this journey, let's pause and reflect. When the Body Says No isn't an easy book. It's a mirror held up to our lives, our society, our silence. Mate doesn't promise miracles. He's not saying stress causes every illness or that healing is guaranteed. What he offers is insight. Our emotions matter. Our stories matter. And when we ignore them, our bodies don't. Think of the people we've met: Mary, Lou, Gilda, Susan. Their illnesses weren't their fault, but their stories reveal a truth we can't unsee. Stress isn't just a feeling. It's a force, one that shapes our cells as much as our souls. Mate's work is a call to bridge the gap between mind and body, to rethink medicine, to rethink ourselves. So what do we do with this? Maybe it starts small, listening to that tightness in your chest, that ache you've ignored. Maybe it's saying no to one more demand, or reaching out to someone who truly sees you. Mate leaves us with this. Healing isn't about perfection. It's about presence, being here fully for ourselves. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive into When the Body Says No. If this resonated with you, pick up the book. Mate's words carry even more power in their full form. Until next time, take care of your body and your story. Conclusion. When the Body Says No is a profound and unsettling exploration of how deeply intertwined our emotional lives are with our physical health. Gabor Maté masterfully blends scientific rigor with compassionate storytelling, arguing that chronic stress, often rooted in childhood and perpetuated by our inability to assert ourselves, plays a pivotal role in diseases like cancer, autoimmune disorders, and Alzheimer's. His central thesis is both simple and revolutionary. When we can't say no to the pressures of life, our bodies do it for us, sometimes at a devastating cost. The book's strength lies in its case studies. Real people like Mary, Lou Gehrig, and Gilda Radner, whose lives illustrate how emotional repression and unrelenting stress can erode health. Maté doesn't blame the individual. He frames this as a societal issue, born from a culture that undervalues emotional honesty and overtaxes our capacity to cope. His use of psychoneuroimmunology provides a solid backbone, showing how stress hormones like cortisol disrupt immune function and fuel inflammation. Yet, he avoids overreach. He's clear that stress isn't the sole cause of illness, but a critical, overlooked factor. The 7 A's of healing offer a practical, if challenging, roadmap. They push us towards self-awareness and authenticity, urging us to reclaim agency over our emotional lives. This isn't a feel-good fix. It's a call to confront pain, set boundaries, and connect meaningfully, tasks that feel countercultural in a world obsessed with productivity and positivity. Mate's critique of forced optimism is particularly striking. Pretending everything's fine doesn't heal us. It buries the problem deeper. Critically, the book isn't flawless. Some might find Mate's reliance on anecdotal evidence, like linking specific personality traits to diseases, less convincing than broad statistical studies. His focus on individual stories, while compelling, occasionally skirts the line of correlation versus causation, a tension he acknowledges but doesn't fully resolve. Still, his broader point holds. Modern medicine's refusal to integrate mind and body leaves us half-treated. In conclusion, Part 1, When the Body Says No is a wake-up call, a reminder that health isn't just about diet or exercise, but about the unspoken burdens we carry. It's a book that demands introspection, asking us to listen to our bodies before they scream. For anyone grappling with chronic illness, emotional suppression, or simply the weight of modern life, Mate's insights are transformative. They don't promise a cure, but they offer understanding, and with it, a chance to rewrite our story. Welcome back to Part 2, our journey through When the Body Says No by Dr. Gabor Maté. If you joined us for the first part, we've already walked through the stress-disease connection, met people whose bodies spoke when they couldn't, and explored the roots of hidden stress in childhood. We ended with Mate's 7 A's of healing, a lifeline for reclaiming our health. But there's so much more to this story. We'll dive into chapters 6 through 19, where Maté takes us deeper into specific diseases, unpacks the science of stress, and challenges us to rethink how we live. From rheumatoid arthritis to cancer, from the mysteries of the immune system to the courage it takes to face ourselves, this is where Mate's vision truly unfolds. So, let's pick up where we left off and listen to what the body has to say. Chapter 6, The Power of Negative Thinking. Chapter 6 hits us with a curveball. Negative thinking isn't the villain we've been taught to fear. Maté flips the script on the self-help gospel of relentless positivity. He tells us about Jacqueline, a woman with breast cancer who felt crushed by the pressure to stay positive. Friends told her to visualize healing, to banish dark thoughts, yet she only felt worse, guilty for her fear. Maté argues this tyranny of positive thinking is a trap. Suppressing negative emotions doesn't make them disappear, it buries them deeper, where they fester. He backs this with science. Studies show that cancer patients pressured to be upbeat often fare worse. Their stress compounded by shame. Negative emotions, anger, grief, fear, aren't the enemy. They're signals. Mate says health lies in feeling them, not fighting them. It's a bold stance. In a world that equates optimism with virtue, he's asking us to embrace the full spectrum of who we are. Chapters 7 to 9, Disease as a Teacher. In chapters 7 through 9, Mate turns to specific illnesses, rheumatoid arthritis, inflammatory bowel disease, and ALS, and treats them as teachers, not just tragedies. Take rheumatoid arthritis. Mate introduces us to Claire, a woman whose joints swelled with pain she couldn't voice. Claire was a perfectionist, always accommodating, her anger locked tight. Mate ties this to research. People with rheumatoid arthritis often share traits: self-sacrifice, suppressed rage. The immune system, he explains, mirrors this inner conflict, attacking the body's own tissues. Then there's inflammatory bowel disease, Crohn's and colitis. Mate meets Paul, a man whose gut rebelled after years of pleasing a domineering father. The science here is striking. Stress disrupts the gut-brain axis, triggering inflammation. Mate sees a pattern. Emotional constipation becomes physical. And with ALS, we revisit Lou Gehrig and others, whose stoicism might have sped their decline. Mate doesn't claim stress causes these diseases alone, but he insists it's a catalyst, amplifying genetic or environmental risks. These chapters aren't gloom and doom. Mate frames illness as a wake-up call, a chance to hear what's been silenced. It's not blame, it's an invitation to change. Chapters 10 to 12, Cancer and the Immune System. Cancer takes center stage in chapters 10 through 12, and Mate approaches it with both tenderness and rigor. He tells us about Linda, a breast cancer patient who lived for others, her kids, her husband, her job, until her diagnosis forced her to stop. Mate digs into the science. Chronic stress suppresses natural killer cells, the immune system's warriors against tumors. Emotional repression, he argues, creates a biological vulnerability. He revisits Gilda Radner, whose comedic mask hid a lifetime of unmet needs, and contrasts her with women who survived longer, those who expressed anger, who asserted themselves. Mate cites studies linking repressed emotions to worse cancer outcomes, but he's cautious. Cancer's complex, not a punishment for feeling the wrong way. Still, the immune system's dance with stress is undeniable. Then there's the gut punch of chapter 12. Mate reflects on his own life. As a doctor, he's seen the toll of overwork, of ignoring his own limits. He wonders aloud, could his own patterns put him at risk? It's raw, vulnerable, and it makes this more than a textbook. It's personal. Chapters 13 to 15, The Brain Under Siege. Chapters 13 to 15 shift to the brain, multiple sclerosis, Alzheimer's, and the nervous system's cry for help. Meet Susan again, the MS patient whose childhood taught her to bury anger. Mate explains how stress floods the brain with cortisol, damaging the myelin sheath that protects nerves, MS in action. He ties this to attachment. Early insecurity primes the nervous system for breakdown. Alzheimer's brings us back to Ronald Reagan and others whose sunny exteriors masked inner turmoil. Mate points to research. Chronic stress shrinks the hippocampus, a memory hub, accelerating dementia. It's not the whole story. Genetics matter, but stress pulls the trigger. These chapters are heavy, but Mate laces them with hope. He shares stories of patients who slowed their decline by facing their emotions, by finding peace. The brain, he says, isn't just a victim. It's a battleground where healing can begin. Chapters 16 to 19, Society, Self, and Healing. In the final stretch, chapters 16 to 19, Mate zooms out. This isn't just about us as individuals. It's about the world we live in. Chapter 16 tackles society's role. We're wired for connection, but modern life, capitalism, isolation, endless demands, cuts those wires. Stress isn't personal failure, it's systemic. Mate critiques medicine too. By ignoring emotions, it treats symptoms, not causes. Chapter 17 revisits autonomy. Mate tells of a patient who left a toxic marriage and saw her ulcers fade. Saying no isn't selfish, it's survival. Chapter 18 doubles down on attachment. Real healing needs safe, honest relationships. And Chapter 19 circles back to the 7 A's, weaving them into daily life. Mate shares his own struggle to practice what he preaches, setting boundaries, feeling his anger. It's not easy, he admits, but it's worth it. The book closes with a quiet power. We're not doomed. Disease isn't fate, it's a conversation. Listen, Mate urges, and answer back. And so, we reach the end of When the Body Says No. From rheumatoid joints to cancerous cells, from stressed brains to strained lives, Gabor Maté has shown us a truth both simple and seismic. Our bodies speak what we can't. This isn't a blame game. It's a revelation. Stress isn't just in our heads. It's in our cells, our stories, our society. But there's hope here too. In every no we dare to say, every emotion we let breathe, every connection we nurture. Mate leaves us with a question. What's your body saying no to right now? Maybe it's a job, a silence, a past you've buried. This book isn't a cure, but a compass, pointing us toward ourselves. Thanks for walking this path with me. If these ideas stir something in you, dive into Mate's full work. Until then, listen to your body. It's been waiting. Updated conclusion. When the Body Says No is a tour de force that dismantles the wall between mind and body, revealing how hidden stress, born from childhood, reinforced by society, and buried in our habits, shapes our health. Across its 19 chapters, Gabor Maté blends science, storytelling, and soul-searching to argue that diseases like cancer, rheumatoid arthritis, MS, and Alzheimer's aren't just biological flukes. They're often the body's last stand against a lifetime of unvoiced no's. His evidence, from psychoneuroimmunology to patient narratives, is compelling. Chronic stress weakens immunity, inflames tissues, and frays nerves, turning emotional silence into physical suffering. The book's heart lies in its people. Claire's swollen joints, Linda's cancer, Susan's faltering nerves. These aren't abstract cases. They're mirrors reflecting traits many of us share. Self-sacrifice, repressed anger, forced cheer. Mate's celebrity examples, Lou Gehrig, Gilda Radner, Ronald Reagan, add star power, but it's his quieter patients who hit hardest, showing how universal this struggle is. His personal confessions, overworking as a doctor, wrestling with his own stress, make this a human story, not a lecture. Chapters 6 to 19 deepen the thesis. Mate's rejection of forced positivity in Chapter 6 is a breath of fresh air. Negative emotions aren't flaws to banish, but guides to heed. His disease-specific explorations, Chapters 7 to 15, weave science and empathy, linking rheumatoid arthritis to suppressed rage, cancer to immune exhaustion, and Alzheimer's to unprocessed pain. The final chapters, 16 to 19, widen the lens. This isn't just personal, it's cultural. A society that glorifies overwork and disconnection fuels the stress Maté describes. Yet, his 7 A's of healing, acceptance, awareness, anger, autonomy, attachment, assertion, affirmation, offer a lifeline, grounded in authenticity over platitudes. The book isn't perfect. Mate's reliance on anecdotes sometimes outpaces hard data, and his correlations, like personality traits to specific diseases, can feel speculative. He mitigates this with caveats. Stress isn't the sole cause, just a key player. Still, skeptics might crave more statistical heft. And while his healing framework inspires, it's light on step-by-step guidance, more philosophy than playbook. In the end, When the Body Says No is a revelation and a reckoning. It challenges medicine to see the whole person, not just the parts, and urges us to listen before our bodies scream. For readers, it's both unsettling and empowering. Unsettling because it exposes how deeply stress embeds itself. Empowering because it hands us tools to respond. Maté doesn't promise miracles, but he offers clarity. Health is a dialogue between body and soul, shaped by our past and present. To ignore it is to court collapse. To engage it is to reclaim life. This book is essential for anyone seeking to understand illness, stress, or themselves, and willing to face the answers.